Hi everybody, and welcome to Echo Creates. Today, I'll walk you through how I made my Illyx doll. This is my first video ever, so please forgive the choppiness as I didn't have a lot of footage. I'll explain why in a moment. First, I feel like I need to explain this doll and the concept behind the design. Every September, when COVID is not an obstacle, a group of friends and I attend a post-apocalyptic, Mad Max-themed festival in the Mojave Desert in California. It would take about an hour to explain everything, so I'll just tell you that this doll is based on one of the friends I attend Wasteland Weekend with. Illyx, the doll, is designed from a drawing I did for her last December. She knew I was doing the drawing, but not the doll. These are some of the costume elements I included in the picture and are the basis for the doll as well. I started with a Rochelle Goyle doll from the Monster High range. She was not in very good condition when I got her, and her hair was sticky from glue seepage. In hindsight, I should have picked a doll with a more similar skin tone, but for some reason, I apparently wanted to start on hard mode. This is the part I mentioned earlier. I lost a lot of footage when my phone, in error, indicated it was 100% full, and I panicked and started deleting all of my videos. So this one starts after all of the prep. I apparently also wanted to start with all of the difficult body modifications, so here are some of the ones that I did. I removed Rochelle Goyle's cute little ear wings, which was very sad. I sculpted some ears out of epoxy sculpt and stuck them to the head using glue and pins. I can't remember what kind of glue, but possibly E6000 because that stuff's amazing. Or possibly it was super glue. I will pay attention next time, I promise. My apologies if this video runs more like a PowerPoint presentation, but it's what I've got. I decided for some reason to reroute the hair by knotting each piece of yarn, threading it through the hole using a needle, and brushing it out afterwards. It looked really great when I finished, and then mistakes were made. I had watched a YouTube tutorial where you could use Sharpie to color hair, and since I had one of those, great, let's YOLO this thing. Disclaimer, do not do this. I totally ruined the hair. Do not use Sharpie to color yarn hair, just don't do it. Then especially don't try to cover it up that mistake with pastels. Try to use a hair straightener to seal it, get red ink everywhere, and make it infinitely worse. You'll regret your life choices and probably cry. So here are the sad, sad results of my poor decision-making process. And I'm a perfectionist, and this was a gift for somebody, so what did I do? I chopped it all off and I started over. I didn't have any of the same yarn left over, so I started with white and I rerouted the hair exactly the same way, and I think it turned out really well. So instead of using any dye or ink or anything like that to color the hair, I wanted to add some extension, so I just brushed out some red yarn wefts and I braided them into the hair. So after being much happier with how the hair turned out, I went on to the face up and I sprayed it with Mr. Super Clear, and while I was waiting for that to dry, I sanded the dickens out of the body. My apologies that this very, very boring clip is one of the very few that I have in this video. Okay, enough of that. You all know what sanding looks like. After the doll was sanded, I did a whole buttload of body modifications. I sawed the doll in half to remove the sway back. I filled it with wire, hot glue, and epoxy sculpt. I cut the neck to fix the neck peg, which was broken, and also to correct the posture as the head was sticking out too far. I added more cleavage, then I added more cleavage, then I added a belly, thighs, and a little bit to the upper arms. I cut the feet to flatten them, and then covered the seam with epoxy sculpt, since the concept I had for the doll doesn't have high heels on. Then I sanded the heck out of it again. A literal 9 months later, I started on the face-up. Cue many more horrible mistakes. I started with just pastels because I thought that perhaps I could cover the gray and the speckles with just pastels. This did not work, and I eventually ended up taking it off and starting over again. My next mistake was using airbrush paint. I do not own an airbrush, so I thought if I painted it on in a couple of layers, it would be great. It would be fine. It would totally work. Oh, here's the body. The body is doing great. You can see the modifications I've done. She's got lots of boob, lots of butt, looking pretty good, right? Sadly, the face did not do so well. So this is what happened when I sprayed my airbrushed painted face with Mr. Super Clear. It made this weird crackling effect. So what did I do? I took it all off and I started over again. This time I was absolutely positive that I could do it with pastels. It did not work. I took it off again. I think I'm up to 4 now. Sorry for jumping around so much. This video is about halfway through the face up after completing the body blushing and the face using watered down acrylic paint and pastels. I had pretty much completed the face up and I had unmasked the hair and discovered that I had missed some spots because they had been under the cloth mask. So I had to go back, sand them, and repaint them, and they'll later be covered with goggles, so it's not too bad anyway. For the goggles, I freehand sculpted them out of Epoxy Sculpt and just looked at the reference photo to see the general shape and size. And then I went back to the body while those were drying and I painted on some tattoos that my friend actually has just so it would be more accurate to what she looks like. I used acrylic paint for these, and while I think that they probably could have been a bit cleaner, I'm pretty happy with the way they turned out. To protect the tattoos, I sprayed them with a matte varnish, not Mr. Super Clear, and it seems to have worked pretty well. I painted the goggles with black acrylic paint and then highlighted them with silver, and then I used E6000 to attach them to a piece of elastic. So this part is showing the cover-up job I did, which wasn't terrible but not great. So I was happy that it was going to be covered with the goggles. As you can see in the video, I also added some black nail polish and made her fingertips black, as that was part of the design that my friend wanted. So on to the clothes. I made a pair of tiny booty shorts, which I then decorated with some more elastic and made a little garter belt type of thing to go down one leg opposite of the one with the fern. The top was a lot of trial and error and consisted mostly of me trying pieces of fabric on the doll and then sewing them and then cutting them and sewing some more. So now there's a lot of footage missing. My apologies. This again is my first video, but I was really thrilled with how the whole outfit turned out and the little boots. And if anybody wants to see me make some boots, I am happy to do that again in the future, just so people can see how I made them. So other than accessories, all the doll needed was a stand. So I got a wooden plaque and dowel, and I drilled a hole in the plaque and I inserted the dowel, and I painted the whole thing and used some textured paint as well, and did some dry brushing, added some rocks and some little miniature tufts of grass, and I thought it turned out awesome. For some last finishing touches, I glossed the eyes and lips, added some false eyelashes, added a tiny leather bracelet and a jump ring bracelet. I made some little boots, as I mentioned earlier, and I inserted some piercings in the septum and then added 2 ear piercings on each side using a pin drill, since I had used Epoxy Sculpt for the ears, which is quite hard to get through. So here are a few pictures of the completed Illyx doll, and I hope people enjoyed my video despite the fact that it ran more like a PowerPoint, and I hope to have more actual footage of me making dolls in the future since I have a new setup for it. So yeah, if you like this video, I hope you'll like it or subscribe to my channel maybe, and I will be making more content for you very soon. Just before the video ends here, I wanted to show a comparison between the doll and the original picture, which I think got pretty close. And thanks again for watching.